What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Progressive Gentleman Podcast. As always, we're your hosts. I'm Dan.
I'm Matt.
We want to thank you for taking the time to nerd out about music with us. This episode is sponsored by Eargasm Earplugs. Use code Gentleman10 at checkout and protect your hearing today. We're excited about this episode. Finally got the guys from Cryptodira to sit down with us. We really appreciate your time. What's going on, guys?
Not much.
Hey, how's it going?
Thanks for having us back after kind of having us back after we totally blew it like 2 weeks
Right.
ago. I'll take full
No worries,
responsibility for that
guys.
one.
No worries. I'm glad we got to have you on.
Exactly.
Yeah, of course.
The important thing is you're here now.
That's
So we kind of like to start these band interview episodes out with sort of an origin story. A lot of times, a lot of these interviews and things talk specifically about the music and don't really touch on, where you guys came from and how you guys got your start. So we'd love to sort of hear your take on sort of where you guys came from, your origin story, so to speak.
Sure. I mean, ultimately, we all went to high school together, and the four of us, it's virtually the same iteration of the band. We kind of bounced between when we were younger, ninth, 10th grade, we were playing closer to just straight up death metal, I'd say, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And even before then, we were like we just wanted to. We were younger. I remember I started playing guitar maybe when I was 11 or 12, something like that. And I didn't have anyone to play with really. So Matt, who drums in the band, he was in one of my classes, and I said, "Do you want to play drums in this band?" Because I had just started. He really liked Tool. My dad got me into my dad, big Dream Theater guy, got me into Dream Theater, Porcupine Tree, and then kind of like it all spun off from there. And I was like,
Good gateway bands.
Yeah,
Yeah,
oh,
a lot of huge prog gateway bands there. That's awesome.
My dad is like the amount of music that I inherited through him is legitimately insane. And just some of the tendencies, his music listening tendencies, the kind of like open to anything, constantly seeking out new music. My favorite was his he was working on a little bit more of a budget. I have a little bit more of he was working on less of a budget. I have a little bit more of a budget in terms of like if he saw album artwork that he thought was cool, regardless of genre, band name, anything, he'd be like, "Let me take a chance on this."
I can relate to that so hard.
There's like that. Oh, it's unbelievable. Like I'll be pulling through his records and CDs, be like, "Why does he have?" He had a that good old war band.
Yeah, I like this like indie folk band from Philadelphia called Good Old War, and Mike had probably only heard them from me playing it in the van.
Yeah.
It's just totally away from what we do. And one day he just sent me a picture of the CD, and he's like, "Isn't that the band you like?" And I was like, "Where the hell did you find that?" And he's like, "Oh, it was in my dad's collection." He probably bought it because it looked cool.
Yeah,
And that was it.
straight up. Yeah, and so same.
Cool.
I've discovered so many cool bands like that. There's a band, Passport, that's this jazz fusion band. Just look up after this. Look up Passport album artwork. It's it's because I was rummaging through records in a record store. I go, what is this? It was $5, and because of it, I found this unbelievable band. And then through that, kind of like it then dominoes. I found there's a cool band called Oracle that I found because of them. Like, and then you open yourself up to a whole different world of music, and that's how my dad operated. I don't know how he fell onto Dream Theater. I think it's because he was guitar oriented to begin with, and we always got those guitar player magazines, and they covered Dream Theater relentlessly.
Oh yeah.
And so that's my I'm listening to this, and I'm showing Scott and Matt and Jeremy to a lesser extent. He had his own adventure with his dad's. His dad's another constantly seeking out new music. I just went to go see Deaf Heaven with his dad. His dad, Jeremy didn't go, but Jeremy's dad and his brother. It's legitimately unbelievable. It's the same kind of like he's 60 something years old, but he's just like constantly seeking out new music. As opposed to you meet people that are just like, I like what I like, and that's that. It's so depressing. But but yeah. So I said to Matt, I need someone to play the drums, and he convinced his dad, who is another music guy, he's a jazz guy. To let me play drums, and his uncle loves Tool too. Yeah. So that's kind of from there, different iterations until we were leaving high school, and we were like, let's try and do this a little bit more seriously. Let's try and be as serious as we can about this. We were constantly going to shows. and we were like, why don't we do this? Why don't we try and really actually do this? And that's kind of it. I don't know if you want to add anything.
That's more or less it. I mean, I just remember being a kid and playing guitar because a friend of mine, like from a couple of streets away from where I grew up, he rode his bike to my house and set up a guitar in my living room and just started playing, I guess just to show off or something. And I was like, and it worked because I was like, that's fucking awesome. So I actually ended up buying that guitar from him when he got a more expensive guitar. My mom bought it for me for my birthday or something. So I was into like punk or mainstream punk, like Green Day and stuff like that. And then started getting more heavy stuff and metal. And then that's when Mike and I had already been friends for a long time. And he kind of just was like similar to Matt. It's like, well, you play guitar and you're now playing guitar in this band with me. And I'm like, of course,
Yeah.
I never got to play with people. So yeah, like Mike said, then the band just got more serious from there. And it was probably a really cool formative thing because we never had the experience that people have. I think now a little more of like kind of growing up in your room and playing alone. We
Yeah.
kind of grew up playing together as a unit. And that's kind of the only way that we knew how to play was just with other people.
Yeah, because even before before latching on to more progressive and prog metal bands, and then the rabbit holes that come from that, it was like AC/DC for me, some glam stuff, Alice Cooper. Still to this day, one of the best shows I've ever been to was one of the 3 times I saw Alice Cooper. Every time is unbelievable, but and so it was kind of like from the spirit of that kind of like rock music, and then and prog rock as well, but just kind of that like not quite solo bedroom guitar player that kind of is a stereotype of a lot of progressive metal now. We kind of grew up away from that, and then melded that influence with the other stuff that we also like. I grew up on like still like you know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah.
Was there a because you said Green Day and then like Alice Cooper bands like that. Was there sort of a gateway band for you to metal? Would you say that's Dream Theater? Was there a gateway band to heavier music? Because the music
Yeah.
that you guys play is quite heavy.
I've
So
gotten
that would be my curiosity. I'm
We
curious.
probably both have different answers, but
give you
for
an-
me,
I'm gonna get a Red Bull.
he's already leaving, man. God, oh, my camera zoomed in on me and everything. That's terrifying.
Close up.
Yeah,
Oh
it's
my
your
God.
close up.
Yeah, no, for me, for metal specifically, it was Avenged Sevenfold. Actually, when I was a kid, it was like my favorite band. But as far as progressive music goes, it's definitely Dream Theater. Yeah, and that would have been Mike's dad giving us train of thought, and Mike passed that along to me, and so on and so forth. So yeah, for metal and prog, two different answers, but same ballpark.
So I have two formative records in elementary school that I remember. Third grade
Oh
Wow.
damn.
was Creed Weathered, which is an unbelievable
Yeah.
record that
Riffs,
holds
man.
up.
They're riffs for days on that record.
Anyone who pushes back on you about that, literally Weathered, that's the record. Put bullets on. It's unbelievable.
I just did this at work like recently. I was making the riffs don't lie argument to a friend that I work with, and he's like, "Dude, come on, Creed." I was like, "Listen, I'm not saying you gotta like the whole song. I'm not saying you gotta like its vocals, whatever your gripe happens to be. But there's one thing that's universally accepted, and that is a riff is a riff is a riff is a riff. Does not matter where it comes from." So I put on the song "Bullets" by Creed, and it just kind of comes in, and he just look like
great bands.
fuck. I guess you're right. That's a riff. It's like, he goes, "This is Creed." I'm like, yes, this is Creed.
And
okay.
Unfortunately, my dad, well, not unfortunately, my dad loved Creed, but unfortunately, in high school, I hit an age where I was like, Creed, come on, man. And he was like, he was like, whatever, Creed rocks. And he went to go see Creed. And he was like, "You want to go?" Because he was constantly taking me to shows, with the family, with himself, his friends. He goes, "You want to see Creed? I'm going to see them." I was like, "I don't want to see Creed." He's like, "All right, man, whatever." He went to go see Creed. He came back. He's like, "One of the best shows I've ever been to." He saw Zeppelin before Bonham died.
Oh wow.
He was
He just went to stuff.
he just constantly one of the things that he decided not to go to because he was in the Air Force in the late 70s, early 80s. And he was stationed in Germany, and he would he called the Air Force the country club of the military, because he would mostly it set him on like an interesting path in terms of discipline, in terms of working out, waking up early, that kind of thing, which he maintained his whole life. But he had this kind of freedom to him and his buddies would go to shows. He saw literally the last Zeppelin tour. Bonham died after the European tour that he saw him on.
Wow.
he decided not to go see AC/DC on Back in Black tour. So I guess this was the early 80s, 81, 80. Iron Maiden opened up. He didn't know who either band was. He was just like, I'm tired. I don't want to go tonight. Which growing up, my favorite band pretty much was AC/DC at that young age. And I was a little bit upset with him that he didn't go to it, as like just insane.
My mom saw AC/DC.
What tour?
For those about to rock. She said
That's
the
awesome.
cannon made her ears ring for
That's
like 3
awesome.
days.
That record's like one of their worst, I think. But the song is unbelievable.
The song is very good.
Yeah. And I'm an AC/DC, like I think most of their records are good and sound different. I think that's another comment.
That's a really hot take. That every AC/DC record
Again,
sounds
use your ears, listen to them. And the other record though was Sabbath, Paranoid, 4th grade. That was just kind of like, I was young, but my dad was just showing me the stuff. And then sixth grade was Porcupine Tree and Dream Theater. That's when he was like, I found this Porcupine Tree band. He found Dream Theater, and then he found Porcupine Tree. And the one, I have 2 little quick things about this. The Porcupine Tree thing is he would go to, again, I inherited this addiction for like just buying records from him. And he went to Walmart. He went to Borders, Walmart, wherever, record stores. And he asked the guy at Walmart, because back then they had a ton of music, honestly. He asked the guy at Walmart. He had long hair.
I remember this guy.
Beard. Yeah, guy was awesome. He asked him, do you know who Porcupine Tree is? Do you guys have any Porcupine Tree? The guy came from behind the counter and hugged my dad. He said, oh, someone knows who Porcupine Tree is. And my dad got a little freaked out. Like, come on, man. He was a stranger. He was like, come on, man. Just, I just want to know. But he actually went back to that guy fed my dad music recommendations a lot. Because he would go back to that Walmart, be like, Porcupine Tree guy told me to check out this band. And some stuff was a little too heavy for him. Like, that's how I did Opeth, because he essentially, we found out about Dream Theater, Porcupine Tree. It's the early stages of us going on the internet. We found out that website, progarchives.com, and it just set us on like a rabbit hole. And that was in the days of illegally. That was, you weren't streaming music, you were buying
you were stealing it, buddy.
or stealing it.
You were stealing it and giving it away.
So much that my dad was
the LimeWire days
buying, but like all the heavy stuff we were just downloading. Yeah. And we had Zunes. We all had Zunes. So we didn't have iPods. We had Zunes. And you could just drag the stuff from your friend's library to your Zune. And it's I
was in the Zune camp myself.
Yeah, he's initiated. He knows what's up.
Yeah. and so like that's how we did that's how we discovered Opeth, who are now from then on became my favorite band, still are.
Cynic,
Death, Between the Buried and Me.
Meshuggah, yeah.
And then the smaller, the Red Chord, and then we go see these bands when they came around. Black Dahlia Murder. I saw Black Dahlia Murder. Or this band called Trap Them opening up. Then they became one of my favorite bands. You go see Trap Them. This band's opening up, and it's just like you just keep digging and digging and digging, and that's just heavy music, and that's just heavy music. Like forget about everything else.
I totally forgot.
That's I forget the question too. Yeah,
that's okay. The tangents are our favorite thing on this show. I think the question was like sort of your entry band into heavy music.
Right.
So there you go. Yeah.
But no, that was awesome. Sort of spinning off of that, you've named a lot of bands that I think some of them, especially sort of the last chunk of bands that you started naming there, like Cynic, Between the Buried and Me, sure. Are bands that you guys I feel like I would name them as influences on your music that you make today. So definitely. I think the question now, I think what I would pose would be, who do you consider your biggest influences?
I mean, right now or like starting the band?
Give us a progression. Give us a progression. Yeah.
I mean, it was always very gradual and very, very like natural. Like Mike said, the band's roots before it was even called what it is now was Dream Theater and stuff like that. And then I think a big turning point was the Opeth, Between the Buried and Me, Dillinger sort of like and Converge too. Like that quad of bands, it seemed like really like shaped what the band would become, because we got really interested in, we loved the progressive polished stuff, but that stuff was so much heavier, all of it, than Dream Theater or like Symphony X or whatever, which we weren't really listening to a whole lot of, but that world, but like, so this was like, it was scratching that sort of like pissed off, probably maybe not the right word, but the angsty itch that kids have, and it gave us this dissonance that we were craving, with the complexity and the sort of like thought-provoking nature of stuff like Dream Theater. So those like 4 bands, I'd say, like just became the the basis for what the band's original sound formed as. And then as it went, it just started just in every direction you could go. I mean, it was jazz stuff, it was fusion stuff, it was pop stuff, it was hip hop stuff, like whatever it could be, it is now. And especially with the stuff that we're currently writing and demoing, it's so much more experimental than I think anyone would. I don't want to say that anyone would expect. I think our fans come to expect things like that from us because it's just that's kind of the name of the game with what we do. But it certainly is making the other influences that are non-metal much more apparent than ever.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh,
that's
cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's now I look for ideas for music in legitimately everything and every type of music. And to be honest, like the thing that I've been most infatuated with is like the tonality of heavier music, or kind of the stuff that you'd expect with mixed with structure or sensibilities from pop music, whether it is more straightforward pop music like Taylor Swift, or more experimental pop music like Caroline Polachek, or they're not 100 Gex guys, but I like 100 Gex, like just stuff that's like stuff that pushes the boundaries, or just like it's stuff that like the same reasons I like Taylor Swift are the same reasons I like Porcupine Tree. If that sounds stupid, it's one of those things where it's like I just saw Steven Wilson post a video today of him talking about ABBA, Taylor Swift, and some other.
He's a huge pop guy. Huge pop guy.
Oh yeah.
And so it's like I don't feel crazy. And not only do I not feel crazy, but I'm sure that somewhere along the line,
Super normal, man. I swear.
I essentially stole that from Steven's thing was like ABBA's the best band in the world. Yeah. That was his thing. It's like I like all of these. I love Pink Floyd, but I love ABBA too. And that's the attitude that I'm coming out so much music with as well. On top of the jazz stuff that I've become infatuated with.
Well, there's a really cool like thing that I've always been fascinated with, which is like what Mike kind of touched on, was finding ways to like I like to break down, and Mike does too, what makes the average person like pop music. It's usually something that's catchy or what have you. And then how do I take the elements of the music that I love and apply that logic to it in a way? And two records that come to mind, that for me anyway, that were formative for me, that I think draw on that. Trace and Air by Cynic, I think is, I mean, there's a couple songs that are a little longer, but not too many of them. Not that I think that's in any way, shape, or form a problem, but those songs, every single song on that album feels like it's 2 minutes long. It goes by so fast. It is like unbelievably catchy, and yet if you try to learn one of the songs, you're like, there's so much going on here, and yet you don't hear the song, that's not a chore. You're not like, holy shit, like this keeps ripping me in every direction, I can't keep my head around it. It's just like you're listening to what feels like a song, and then like when you really like peel back the layers, you're like, holy shit, there's so much going on here. I thought that was that way for progressive music, and then when I got into death metal, I thought the Faceless's Planetary Duality had that same quality to it, despite being an incredibly heavy death metal record. It is by far one of the heaviest and catchiest records I know in that world. It's just like the same thing. The structure of the songs always seems to wrap around in a way where every riff is like singable, but it's death metal. It doesn't have that like tech death riff salad thing where it's like I can't really hear the riff, but it's like every note is super intelligible,
Yeah,
and I think that's really cool. So that's a huge thing for us.
That's something that I feel like is undervalued or underappreciated in the genre, or maybe just people don't realize that there are a lot of bands that I feel like try to structure their music like that, and usually the albums that stick with you the most are albums that have those catchy riffs, or are taking from other genres. Like probably the earliest record that I can think of in this vein would be, well, I guess not the earliest, but the one that's popping in my head is Deliver Us by Darkest Hour. I don't know if you're familiar, but that record
I'm familiar with the band, just never looked at the record.
I definitely have seen them like twice, I think.
Yeah, that record to me has a lot of those elements to where like you said, you're almost seeing the riffs. It sounds simple, it's short. It's like it's not even short, like you don't realize like it just flows so well that like I don't know. It's one of those records that sticks with you just because of the writing style and how they pull from elements of different, more popular genres and things like that.
And the other fun bit about that, the other balance I have in my brain is when you write a more catchier or a poppier song, then my brain goes, now I need to zag. I need to do something like very heavy, very dissonant, like I need
to counter it.
one,
Right,
yeah,
yeah.
1 for 1. I just to like and have them connect in some kind of sensible way, melodically, or just any kind of theme or anything like that.
Right.
That it doesn't sound like. The one thing is, as much as we're grabbing so many different artists and bands that we love, and different genres, the one thing that I don't like is when it sounds like a band is skipping
Smashing
through
it.
genres,
Yeah.
where it's like one after another after another after another. I think that like there's a technical precision that comes with pulling that off. That's like, when they do it live, or even a studio recording, that's like, oh, that's impressive. It's just not what I strive to do or what I really like.
Yeah.
I want it to sound cohesive. I want it to sound like just cohesive, I guess.
You want to beat the genre change over someone's head.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's even a time and a place where you can turn on a dime and something can sound natural.
Does it pretty well.
Yeah, I'd say the hoedown in Answer the Sky is a great way to
I was
Yeah,
literally gonna say, like, so would you say that Between the Buried and Me, a band who sort of surfs genres within an album, is like
Yes.
a band that does that cohesively?
Yes,
like,
I think
yeah.
so.
They
Very
do it
much.
cohesively.
They do it perfectly.
They sound like Between the Buried and Me when they're doing
Yeah,
it.
and also, you can even look at like the note structure of like that
Right.
fun hoedown part, and then the parts that immediately precede it and are right after it, and it all flows perfectly. You're like, yeah, like you don't realize how much of music comes down to the tools being used, and sometimes not just the note choice, because what is metal but just classical music play really fast with distorted guitars and blast beats half the time? Like, what is necrophagus? It's like it's neoclassical as fuck,
Yeah.
And what is, like, you take that hoedown part and they're kind of using like this twangy banjo type sound, and then immediately followed by like what I believe they describe as like a sort of power metal part almost. But like the key and everything lines up in such a way where you're like, yeah, those parts make perfect fucking sense.
It flows together. It works.
The tools are different,
It's like when you
cool.
describe it, you sound like a psychopath. It's like, it makes perfect sense, and then people listen to it like, oh yeah, it kind of does.
No, it doesn't.
And prog rock bands do that well too, and that's the thing. That's probably why they're able to do that so well. It's because there's a couple guys in that band that love prog rock. Whether it's like King Crimson does with Speed, interestingly enough, where I feel like there's a lot of slower stuff that almost sounds completely different from, you play the same thing bumped up, double the BPM, or it sounds like two different songs, but it still sounds like King Crimson. Or just even the different tonalities that they play with, or a band like Gentle Giant. Rush to a certain extent. Rush to a certain extent in the 80s, like, as much as one of the genres of music I don't jive with so much is like ska and reggae. That's one thing that they melded into their music pretty seamlessly. You could, if you really listen out,
The Spirit of the Radio's got the reggae part right in the middle.
Oh yeah,
it's perfect,
and it sounds like Rush.
Lands
right?
perfectly. Yeah,
it sounds like Rush. Doesn't sound, you wouldn't think unless you really put your ear to it.
Yeah, it's just the song.
Yeah,
it's just how the song goes. That's how you think about it. And you're
yeah,
like, that is a reggae part, but I never thought of it as one. It's just like it's in the song.
Yep.
And for me, like, those are things that I didn't think about back when I was introduced to Rush by my dad when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah,
you know what I mean?
100%.
I just was like, this is cool. This sounds cool. I dig this. And then like when you start getting into bands like Between the Buried and Me, and then you start to look back at like, how did I get here? And then you start thinking about, oh, I guess it kind of makes sense. Like, I was listening to bands that did a lot of similar shit back then. I just didn't realize it. And,
right.
Like,
100%.
yeah,
There's
like
our bass
I would
player
say,
just flying in right now.
nice.
He's gonna fuck off. Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's awesome. That's really cool. I was curious. So you guys, speaking of Between the Buried and Me, I think maybe we can take a dive a little bit into the touring aspect. You guys just toured with them in Haken, I believe. Was that over in Europe?
Yep.
I'd love to any cool stories about that. How was that? Was that
I'd
your
say the
biggest
first-
tour, you'd say?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was definitely the biggest story. I think the first fun story about that is how we got it. It was something that was I'd say very mildly brought to our attention by our agent in Europe. It was very like, hey, like they're looking to tour over here. Your name's in the hat, which is something that does not happen infrequently with this type of thing. You'd be surprised how many things your name gets put into and how few of them actually turn out to be real.
Oh yeah, you'd go insane.
Yeah, you'd go nuts.
You don't even want to know about half the stuff.
You stop getting excited after a while. You're just like, oh, that'd be cool. All right.
Right.
Oh, Megadeth. It's just funny. We actually did get submitted for a Megadeth tour once. That's how funny this shit is.
Oh, that's really cool.
Like, it's not. It's really not. it never had a fighting chance. I think.
Who's the?
Oh yeah. You know who so we got submitted for 104, Megadeth, Trivium, Lamb of God, and there was a 104 they were looking for. Just guess what band beat us and 8 million other bands out for? In Flames.
In Flames.
So obviously we never had a
So
snowball.
yeah, that's quite a large band.
Right. So
it's a bit of a jump.
it's the kind of shit that just like, oh, we've submitted you for this. And you're like, cool. You may as well have like I don't know, like submitted us for a Taylor Swift tour. Like there's an equal chance of it happening. But so anyway, but with the Between the Buried and Me thing, obviously it was much more feasible than that, but still something that you hear somewhat frequently. And you're like, okay, yeah, that's cool. And he's like, yeah, they're looking to make a decision next like month or two or whatever. When I say we completely forgot about it, I mean like we almost completely forgot about it. We were just like, okay. But since there's a time difference, obviously, where they're much further ahead over there in Europe, and because it was a European tour, that's when this stuff gets sorted out. We got the email sent to us, the offer from the agent for the tour at like something like 4 o'clock in the morning or whatever. So Mike wakes up first for the gym at like 5 o'clock in the morning. I happen to be getting up around like, I don't know, 7:30, something like that day. And I wake up to my phone exploding at like 5:45 in the morning, just going ape shit. And I'm like, what is going on? And it's like, I see like 100,000. I thought someone died. And Mike texted me probably 25 times. It's like, Scott, pick up your fucking phone. Look at your phone. Check the man's email. I was like, what is happening? And I just seeing like all capital letters like tore off for, Between the Buried and Me and Haken. And I was like, no, I'm going back to bed. It's not real.
The other thing, but I do think that at a certain point we also I knew that we were we're bound to take steps, and this was a logical step.
This wasn't like completely out of the question. It wasn't like we were touring like Dickhead's Bar and Grill, and then that was the next thing that happened. It was it was certainly a logical
interval.
Yeah, but then it just like it still felt like it was a good, a nice sizable thing.
It's a big step up, and we were psyched about it.
So that was funny, and then like everyone in the band subsequently starts waking up from then like all the text messages. But yeah, it was really cool. It was exciting.
The other thing that I remember about that was just waking up to it, and I got the message from our agent, and he was just like, I've got it. I just sent you a very interesting email, and I was like, I remember the Between the Buried and Me tour. I was like, oh, this is the Between the Buried and Me tour he's offering. I don't know why. I was like, I know this is it. And yeah. So the thing that I remember about it too is I get the email and I'm looking at the dates and I just keep scrolling.
That was long.
It was like
fucking long. It was 7 weeks almost. About six and a half. Yeah.
How many shows were there?
It was like
7?
40 something.
Oh, either way,
it
just like. Yeah, it was a lot.
I didn't realize it was that huge.
It was gigantic.
It was crazy. Just about as extensive as you can get in Europe.
Yeah. Wow. It covered pretty much every place there was to go.
Yeah.
More or less. I mean, not like everything, but like I'd say the major markets were all hit. There was nothing left.
That's a massive tour. Yeah. I feel like, and when I saw that lineup, I was like, good for them, because that makes sense. Like I always, and I don't know if this is not meant to be offensive. This is actually a very.
I'm already offended, so watch out.
I always describe your music as like organized chaos. Like I feel like you guys do so much within one piece of music, and it sounds like chaos, but like so cohesive that it's like it's actually impressive. I honestly think you guys are pretty unique in the genre, because there's a lot of bands that Between the Buried and Me is one of them. There's a lot of bands that sort of blend different genres and take you on a roller coaster ride, but I feel like the way you guys do it is very unique to the genre. So like seeing you on a bill with Between the Buried and Me, I feel like that had to have opened you guys up to like a lot of people who would be target consumers of your music.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting
it. It felt like shooting fish in a barrel at a certain point. It was like this is it for us. These are the people that are gonna love us, and like that was true. But I'll tell you what's kind of funny about it is like, so over here anyway, I'd say that they are probably like one of the biggest like bands in this genre, certainly. I mean, to me, much bigger, at least in America anyway, than Haken was. I was relatively new to Haken. I knew all about them. I just never really listened. It wasn't something I ever really got my ears around. Now I'm dyed in the wool. I fucking love that band.
They're great.
But yeah, so then we get there though, and come to find out, just because of the way Europe appreciates like prog metal, especially the sort of classic prog metal stuff, it was very much like Haken is fucking huge there, man.
Yeah.
Like they were clearly the band that like a lot of the crowd was there to see. It was funny, man. Like, I mean, obviously BT Band was drawing zillions of kids too, but it definitely was a lot more even tilted in Haken's favor than I expected. And it was
like almost like it could. I was gonna say almost like it could have been a co-headliner.
It was.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like even sets, and Haken played last every night, but that was just because somebody has to. But the sets were even, the billing was even, everything was even.
Part of that being too that Haken released a record on the tour too. It was like you know, one of those things.
That's when Fauna came out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That makes sense.
We were out there when that came out. It was fun.
Yeah.
It was a fun little day. I remember they had someone bake them a cake with the Fauna cover.
Oh yeah, and they were wearing the
that,
matching shirts and shit.
Oh
yeah, I saw that.
Dude, they still do it, man. They committed to that shit. They did an American tour after that. We caught them on, and they were still doing it. They did some festivals after. They're still doing it. Like they've evolved it. I think they made T-shirts now because I think like Ray was getting a little like clammy with the shirt open and everything all the time. But yeah, it was cool, man. Like it felt nice to get a recognition that, like, as arrogant as it sounded, that we felt like we deserved after grinding it for so many years, and it felt like this was the audience that we've been wanting to get in front of, and it felt like a reward for for playing in front of a lot of audiences that we probably didn't belong in front of, but that we're always open to doing that kind of thing because I think it's really helpful and healthy to do that. But it felt like, okay, we're coming home now. Like this is like a homecoming for the band in a way where it's like, if anyone's gonna like us, it's these people. So let's do it.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
And I mean, just as far as stories go, I mean, the one thing that sticks out is just like one, how easy to get along with both of those bands are.
Yes.
You never know going into a tour, especially because, you know, we've toured with a few bands that we grew up listening to and liking. And I think in pretty much every case we've been lucky.
Yeah.
But like we got along with Between the Buried and Me better than any band that we've ever toured with. Like that, like as good as
as good as anyway.
You know, as good as Roll Tomasi or
Intervals or anybody.
I remember even seeing was it Dan or was it Tommy or he was wearing your jacket?
Tommy, yeah. Actually, is that the jacket? That's the jacket. Actually, you can see it hanging on the chair.
But you know what it is? It's one of those things where that was earlier on in the tour, and we were still like, they were so kind and so nice and so pro is the other thing too.
Yeah.
But just like in a way that was like
just relaxed.
Yeah.
Not intimidating at all.
Is a good word.
Yeah.
And then we were on stage and Tommy warmed up in our dressing room most nights. And I just got like a DM from him of him wearing my coat. Like no and it was one of those things where
no context
where I was like, we're becoming friends. This is nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. And you have those moments on all tours where it's like you start to get to know people, and then something happens where someone says or does something, and you're like,
okay, now we're friends.
We're friends. Yeah. You know, now we're friends with these guys.
And they make it easy too. You know, like Paul's a grade A. Paul Wagner's a grade A ball buster. He's a roaster in every sense of the word, where you kind of like, you know, pleasantries for a couple of days, and then on day 3 he's like making fun of your shoes or something, and you're like, all right, like you can't. It's nice because it creates a very relaxed atmosphere immediately, and no one has to be a tight ass. We can all just hang out, and you can give it back to me. He takes it like anybody else, so it's cool.
And same thing with Haken, and it's just nice to not every band that you tour with you stay in touch with and become lifelong friends with. But it's nice when you do become like there's a lifelong friendship that you see, and like, you know, I still talk to a couple of the guys in Between the Buried and Me every day, every other day. You know,
that's awesome.
Every week or something. It's, you know,
that's cool.
Buddies. And you know, Haken the same way. Intervals is, you know,
some of our
Roll Tomasi, like it's just bands like, you know, you just meet people and you're like, oh, this is your friend now.
Yep. Yeah, it's great.
So it was just, you know, there's no insane stories just because they're so pro, and every show was just like, we hung out, ate food, played music, and then everyone went to bed.
One fun one was
a couple little things.
I'm thinking about in Barcelona. Barcelona, I think it was, and I remember going outside the show for a minute to get some air, food, or something, and I came back and BT Band was playing, and like I just realized that like nothing's happening. There's like some weird like Jazz Odyssey type vibe happened. I'm like, what the fuck is going on in there? Like, you know, like most bands, they have their session that they play through the sets the same every night. It's not like fucking improv jazz goddamn thing. And I'm looking and I'm like, and I just see like this image of like Paul Wagner standing on stage, starting a stand-up comedy routine, while like their engineer, their sound guy Nate, just looks visibly stressed out with a flashlight. And Tommy Rogers kind of in the back of the stage looking like he wishes he could disappear. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening? And something like just completely shit the bed in their rig and they couldn't play. And there's like Dan and Blake were just goofing around. Paul's like making fun of people in the crowd in his own band and everything. And I'm like, this is a really good way to handle this. And it felt like a little bit of a learning experience where it's like, you can't take the shit too seriously. There's nothing you could do about it when something goes wrong, but wait it out. They could have stood there in total silence while the crowd got like restless and we're like, what the hell's going on? And instead they're like, all right, time to just command this crowd with a weird little jazz beat, and I'll make fun of stuff for a little while. You know, I remember Paul making fun of Haken for being wasted on the boat, and like this is like stuff like that. You know, it's very, like Mike said, it's like the stories are not extreme because it was just a good time and everybody was just good. The tour was good. The show's been good. Everybody's cool.
I got one other fun one is we went to Taco Bell that one night.
Oh yeah,
where we were walking
the exotic food of Taco
we were
Bell.
in Spain.
It
wasn't Barcelona. It was
somewhere in Spain.
It was the other one, Sevilla. That's the one. I got
Sevilla.
it. We avoided any good Spanish food and went to Taco Bell.
And it was just one of those things where I
was gonna say you got that authentic Spanish food.
Yeah, me and Scott were just by our trail or something like that. Like I forget what, but a couple of guys between the bear me were walking out, and I think it was Paul was just, come on, we're going to Taco Bell. Come on, we're going to Taco Bell. Come on.
Didn't get a choice.
Yeah, you didn't have a choice. He was just like, we're going. He was like, and you know, it was one of those things that was again an early-ish on in the tour.
About 2 weeks in, something like that.
So yeah,
2 out of 7.
But that was, you know, it was nice to just have. Everyone was so friendly and welcoming, and it was nice. It was a great tour full of days like that.
Yeah, and great shows.
And great shows.
Really
No bad shows. All
really good shows.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
I actually I ended up discovering you guys on your Veil of Maya tour.
Oh yeah.
When you we're from Pittsburgh, so when you came through Pittsburgh,
Mr. Small's Theater.
It was at Mr. Small's Theater.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. One of our favorite venues on the
Great place.
podcast. We love it. And honestly, of all the bands that played that night, your set stuck out to me the most. I am a huge Between the Buried and Me fan. They're one of my favorite bands. So like,
same, yeah.
I really drew the parallel
Sure.
to what you guys were doing and kind of what I liked about what Between the Buried and Me did. So immediately it was like, grabbed a shirt, grabbed a vinyl, loved everything you guys did.
Appreciate
it. And then to the point where I told Matt about you guys, and then we ended up catching you on the Intervals tour when you came through Pittsburgh. And so the question is,
Smalls again, was it?
No,
wait, don't tell me. Oh, was it fucking Jurgles?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Yes.
How did I forget?
Because
the weirdest show ever.
We talked that night.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. But I wanted to bring that up because I felt like everybody on that tour had a lot of fun with the fact that it was at Jurgles.
We couldn't not, man.
Yeah.
That name is fucking ridiculous.
And you guys posted you created a meme. I think you guys tweeted it out where it was like a bottle of Jergens lotion or something.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I changed it to Jurgles.
Oh, we loved that so much.
It was a game that the whole tour package was playing.
Yeah, who could say Jurgles?
Who could say Jurgles on stage the most?
Yeah.
I love that you guys remember this shit.
We couldn't help but feel like toward the end the Intervals was cheating because they were just like saying it 10 times before a song. I guess they were making up for the fact that they didn't have words in the songs.
Yeah.
I had one disqualified because the tour manager Justin was counting on the side of the stage. And I had one disqualified because I changed a lyric in the song to Jurgles. And he said, if no one can understand it because you're screaming, it doesn't count. And I thought that was garbage because we tied with Seder after that and we would have won by 1. Dude, I felt like I just lost the Stanley Cup, man. I was so pissed.
It was Jurgles per minute too.
Yeah,
JPM. Because it wouldn't be fair to us and Seder.
Yeah, we felt like we had shorter sets. It's not fair, you know, for them. Like if Intervals got an hour, they can say Jurgles 100 times in an hour.
We did.
You know what? Thank you, scientists. I think they won and they deserved to.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. They probably did.
They were pretty creative, but they did like a little acapella. You know, they're that type of bands.
The funny thing about Jurgles too is like that was not just a joke that day. We remember like I was looking to the venue list as you typically do when you get a tour offer. You're like, yeah, I've been there, played that. Oh, that's a new one. That's a cool one. I heard of that place. I'd never been. And then I hit Jurgles and I'm like, what the fuck is like? I've never even seen it on a tour fly. I've never heard of Jurgles. And I'm like, no, Mr. Small. Okay, that's a little weird. But then we get there, and of course, everyone's laughing at the name the whole time, like up leading. And that was toward the end of the tour. That was like there was like 4 shows left out of like a month of tour on that one. And we get there, and the vibe of that place is exactly what a place called Jurgles should look like. In that it's like a 2-story Applebee's.
Yeah,
that's exactly
like,
what it
people are
is.
eating like fucking like zesty like jalapeno slammers while we're playing, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
It's being from the area. Have you been to Jurgles since? Is that a spot
So
that gets shows?
Let me tell you. So Jurgles is usually the go-to spot for your favorite dad rock cover band.
Yeah, all the flyers in a place where like, dude, the guitar player from like Zebra's playing here on
I was
Saturday.
gonna go Zebra too. That's so fun.
And
Long Island band.
Legends, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
it usually draws a very geriatric crowd. And the funny part about that is, so like they have like membership, like I want to say memberships or something like that. Like people can like so like they, you know, oh, you can come to all the shows or whatever. And so I knew that you guys were opening, right?
Yeah,
and I don't know if you caught some of the crowd by the bar.
People were eating burgers and stuff. Yeah.
But there were several members of the like silver sneakers community in the crowd for your set, and I was like these people don't know what they're about to witness. Like they're last week it was like a Nickelback cover band or some shit, and now they're about to experience this. Like
it's funny. It's funny that we can upset, and not like really upset, but we can make two so polar opposite demographics upset when we play, and that's like when we're playing with. You remember that deathcore? Like we used to play with deathcore bands when we were younger.
Yeah,
because that was
it was like whatever was heavy, you would play with.
What was the Metal Fest
show?
Okay,
so it's the New England Metal and Hardcore Festival in 2016. They were doing a pre-show, like a warm-up in Connecticut the day before, where I guess a handful of bands that were either on their way to the festival or local or what have you were playing the day before the festival as well. And the guy who's putting it together, big deathcore death metal guy, but he also loves us. Why, I don't know, but he's really big on it. You know, he's probably got a very expanded taste, and he loved our band, and he loved those other types of bands. And there's nothing wrong with any of these bands, but it was seven deathcore bands and us.
And so the second
and we weren't even playing first. We were like fourth. You know, we were like dead, like in the middle of this lineup. It was actually Jeremy's first show with the band ever.
Oh my god, yeah.
So I was like, this is a good way to get your feet wet because you're not going to be nervous at all. Because like it's like like everyone just looking at us, and
it's maybe the only time that we've ever played where after a song, not a single person clapped.
Nobody.
And this was just after one song. Like,
yeah, you know, later on it picked up, but it was the first track we played, and then like we hit the last note, and you're like, there's like that expectation. You hit the note, there's like a half second of silence, and then here comes the noise, and it was like, and then just like the way you could hear a pin drop.
It was legitimately so funny. I'll never forget it.
I think I looked at Mike and just like mouthed like, okay.
It's, you know, the only clean guitars of the night.
Yeah, I don't think anyone else had a channel switcher at all.
Which is fine. Yeah. It's just a different type of show. No one was, and so to go from that upsetting those people to upsetting the crowd.
We're either too heavy or not heavy enough, no matter what.
Like, I will say one of those gentlemen was bobbing his head a little bit.
That's awesome. Good for him.
I don't think he knew what was happening, but he was into it.
That's okay. He doesn't have to.
And I've
seen a lot of bands where I'm like, I don't know what the fuck I'm watching, but I think it's pretty cool, man.
The clean guitars and the prog rock, the undertones of prog rock pull people in. Where sometimes you get someone who is just a little bit older, and is not versed in this kind of music at all, and they go, you know, I hear a little bit of Rush there, and that's like
it really
we've gotten that before.
Yeah, it really attracts the. I don't really mind the screaming. I just can't understand what he's saying. Crowd, right. Like that's that. You know. But I remember that show, and I'm glad you brought that up because I truly did not know when people are sitting there eating dinner and whatever. I'm like, okay, so normally you have to pay to get into a show. These people don't look like they paid to get here. They don't look like they want to be here, and I'm like, how are the bands getting paid? Did anyone buying tickets, or you just walk in for dinner and then at like 6 o'clock now you got to leave? I had no idea how this works, and I'm like, there's no way anyone at these tables paid to be here. Like, but if they're members or whatever, that makes perfect sense. I remember thinking, because this is not like an abnormality, but you know, if there's a smoking section or an eating section or whatever, and you're playing first, there can be this moment of like, okay, we need to get everyone over here so they know the show's starting. But this was different because you felt like you're in a fish tank because it's like, you know, square, and everyone's on the perimeter of the square looking at you, but they're all really comfortable with their steak and they're not about to stop eating it. And I'm like, I guess we just play. But it was you know, it ended up being a fun experience.
And you'll never forget a show like that.
No. I knew that we were in for it. And this is not necessarily a hard and fast rule, but I knew we were in for it when we had a kid mixing on the iPad. Yeah. Whenever you see the iPad broken out, you're like, oh man, this might not be great. Like, you know, like a string bean, the 17-year-old kid who's definitely like, you know, they put him on this show because the real sound guy only likes dad rock, and he's like, I'm not doing the metal show. You do, you go ahead. and he's got this like iPad Pro, and he's just like standing on stage mixing. I'm like, no, you got to mix
Back
out there,
yeah.
man. You gotta.
That is a good rule.
Yeah, you. A good rule is mix where people will watch the show. You know.
I just meant the iPad thing.
Oh yeah. It's not necessarily hard and fast, but it's pretty good. It's a pretty good click. Yeah, where like if you see the iPad broken out, you
You're in for a bad time.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, they've only been they've only had metal shows there. What, Matt, would you say like the last 2 years, 3 years? Like,
Yeah, it seemed like they were trying to like change the people that were coming, like try to branch out and make it like, let's just not make this like a geriatric hangout. Let's make it like hipper and cool. They actually had a metal fest where Lorna Shore played there.
Oh wow.
Which was crazy. It was like when I saw that, it was like, but it started like in the afternoon on like a weekday, and it was like I can't imagine the turnout was
there
real
had
great.
to have been like 10 people there.
Yeah,
that's a strange promoter idea, probably.
Yeah, and like, hey, speaking of good stories, like if you want tour stories at Jurgles, it was such a joke, the whole thing, like the name anyway, not the show. And then we were in our dressing room, which was fucking huge, by the way. It looked like some kind of like VIP, like I don't know, like private room for like people to have, I don't know, private lunches or whatever. And our drummer is just kind of like rummaging through stuff, and he's opening drawers. And I swear he pulls out a embroidered Jurgles polo. And he's like, no. And he looks at the size, and it's his fucking size. And he's like,
I hope
don't tell anybody, but I'm taking the shirt. And he literally wears the Jurgles shirt sometimes. Yeah. He'll break it out for occasions, like, you know, parties, wearing his Jurgles embroidered polo.
That's actually amazing.
Wild stuff. Yeah.
I'm so glad that you guys remember that. We both were like, should we ask this? They'll be like, no.
That was like that was one of the biggest things whenever you guys said you were going to do this, where we were like, we need to find a way to bring up Jurgles. But we were like, but we would hate if we brought it up and you guys were like, oh, I have no idea. But I'm so glad this spun into like this huge thing.
Dude, it was every word you could think of was turned to Jurgle. Everybody was like jerking off. Like it's not good, man. Yeah, we'll never forget Jurgles.
That's so funny.
A special place in this band's history.
Yeah, we wish it was hopefully it turns into something better at some point, because that is actually the closest venue to where we live in Pittsburgh. Really? So like if it did work out, that would be amazing, but it's just such a weird vibe right now.
Is there any like I have a question for you. Is there any like actual venues, like, I don't know, it sounds weird, but like for metal anyway, inside the actual city limits of Pittsburgh? I feel like
is that Preserving Record Store, that Preserving
Underground? So that is, it is not technically in downtown Pittsburgh. Well, it's considered a Pittsburgh address though. So that's the area's New Kensington, PA.
Gotcha.
So it's honestly Smalls is closer to downtown Pittsburgh.
It feels like every time that we play Pittsburgh on a tour, it's never, the address is never Pittsburgh. Yeah, it's always like Millvale or something. Yeah. I'm like, is there any venue inside Pittsburgh? Like, we pull up and we see the bridges and we're like, oh, it's so cool looking. And then like there's always this hilarious moment in the van where you like veer off. You're like, oh shit, we're not going there. Like, oh, bye. We're gonna go to the suburbs. See you later.
There's a slightly larger venue called Stage AE.
Okay.
That is on the North Shore of Pittsburgh. So when you're out, like you're right next to Heinz or Acrisure Stadium, whatever the hell it is now.
Sure, yeah.
So you're between the two stadiums. So you're between Acrisure and PNC Park.
Nice.
It's like an indoor outdoor too. Like they can set up the stage either way.
So if you're playing outdoor on the stage, you're looking at Heinz Field or Acrisure Stadium.
That's really cool. Yeah.
So that's a venue that I've seen Animals as Leaders there. I've seen
Sick.
Between the Buried and Me there. Coheed and Cambria plays there every time they come through.
Okay.
So
we got.
We'll hit that.
What you're saying is we need to get on a bigger tour in America.
You can get there. I mean, I feel like that Between the Buried and Me Haken like tour
that would have hit
with
there.
you guys. I think that would have hit there.
Yeah,
we saw Death Haven there.
Yeah,
I've seen them there twice.
Wasn't that BT Bam Animals as Leaders Contortionist show?
Yeah, that was at Stage AE indoors.
2015. That was a great show.
It was a good show.
It was really good.
You have a good memory. I can't remember.
I have a weird thing with dates and like shows specifically. Like our drummer's always like, he'll always like pull up to place and be like, "Have we played here before?" And I'm like, 4 times actually. Yeah, like we play here on every. I don't know how you don't know that.
Matt, what's the smaller venue in Lawrenceville that Caligula's Horse is playing at?
Is it Thunderbird?
Yeah, there's a spot called, I think it's called the Thunderbird Music Cafe or something like that.
Oh boy,
That's
cafe
like,
is a bad sign.
Yeah, whenever you see
but it's actually,
grill or cafe, you're in trouble.
I thought the same thing, but the venue, like I've never actually been there. This will be the first time I ever go. Next year will be for Caligula's
Nice.
horse, but it seems like it looks normal from the pictures. I don't know. I guess we'll see. We'll
Sure.
see what that's like. But that's also
They have a
relatively in
green
the
room.
city.
You don't like go in the kitchen or anything. So there's at least that.
Hey, our green room's been in the kitchen more than once.
Yeah.
What was that place we just did with Rolo and Cowboys over there?
Chicago.
Oh, that was
in Pittsburgh.
It was
that
the
was
place-
in the South Hills of Pittsburgh. What the hell is
What
that
the
called?
hell is
'Cause
it? The weird place with like the marquee
The
lighting?
Craft House.
the
What?
Craft
really
House.
weird pizza-
Craft
was it?
House. Craft House.
Yes.
Yeah, was that? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
That
That's
was an
also
odd
kind of a
odd
restaurant.
spot, man. Really odd spot. I remember that.
there's two things I remember very much about that day. Do you remember either?
One of them was the Cowboys tire flying off
Not
their
even-
bus and
not even
like
counting-
hitting another car, and I had to go
Oh,
pick them up.
shit.
And they made their show by about 6 minutes.
So
Wow.
Oh, geez.
The weird pizza.
there's a weird pizza spot that a few of us went to that was
I went to
honestly
that.
great. And then the toothpaste.
Oh man. So we
I want to
shared a
know
van
what
with.
I want to know what the weird pizza place was too. But
It
yeah,
was
go ahead.
right across the street. I mean, it might not be that weird. We might be being offensive right now, but for us
I won't be
being from
offended.
where we are, like it was odd. I don't know how to describe it. It's very.
Is it the
pizza
spot that
place?
puts the cold cheese on it?
No, but
No.
that is
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
We actually have a spot
Okay.
that does that
I'm going there
here.
tomorrow.
But not it's not normal here at all. So much so that the
It's
one
not
place
here
that does
either.
it is the one place that does it, right?
Same
Yeah, I don't
around
think it
here,
was
yeah.
that place in Pittsburgh. It was just I don't know, it was just whatever. But Rolo Tomasi was the band we were out with. They're probably our best friends in music, and we were sharing a van with them as we like to in America. And they're from England, and
It's the best.
it's the best time. You can't have a better time on tour than sharing a van with that band. It's just like a party. Not even like a party, like
No,
everyone's going
man,
nuts.
It's a weird.
It's like a fun little innocent party.
People are playing War. People are playing dice.
Yeah, last time we did this tour, they brought a router with them so they can like set up like a little local network in the van so they can play this like I don't know what Command and Conquer Red Alert. That was the actual game, but they just called it War.
They just call it War. Who wants to play War?
Who wants to
Who
go to
play
war? Yeah.
All right.
And so their drummer Al forgot his toothpaste, and it was only a 2 week
No,
tour.
Nathan forgot the toothpaste.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not. He's right. I'm sorry. Yeah, Nathan forgot his toothpaste. Their bass player, and he kept grubbing off their drummer Al. And it's only a 2 week tour, and after like a day or two, Al was like, "All right, get your own toothpaste, man. Like, I'm gonna run out of toothpaste. I'll buy it again." And then Nathan just kept taking it anyway. So then, well, I guess Al, when he was drinking one night, he just put his foot down. He's like, "No more, not taking my toothpaste. That's it. You're done. No more toothpaste." So the next day at Craft House outside,
There's this hill.
have you been to Craft House? I'm sure you have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one
You know
time
that fucking
actually.
gigantic hill that it's on.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, so we're parked at the top by the back door or whatever, and like Nathan just like he steals Al's toothpaste out of his bag, like knows exactly where it is, obviously, because he keeps using it.
Asked me to take a
And he
video.
goes, "Mike, take a video of this." And
Just a couple
he
people
goes
on
he goes, "This is what Al gets for being so selfish." And he puts it on the ground like a football tee and like and just absolutely punts this toothpaste like a full fucking 50-yarder down this massive hill. And at the very moment that he like is like recoiling from this kick, Al walks out of the venue and everyone's peeing. He's like, "What's everyone laughing at?" We're like, I will have to we'll have to send you the
I'll send you the
video.
video,
Yeah,
yeah.
Oh,
later.
I'd love to see that.
It is
That shit's funny.
exactly as I described. The timing is like you would think it was scripted with how he
It's insane.
as soon as he kicks it, like Al walks out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a couple good Pittsburgh memories. I
Oh
guess.
man.
Yeah,
That's
I love
awesome.
it.
Glad to hear that they're good ones, not bad ones.
Yeah. Yeah. I like Pittsburgh.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I like Pittsburgh. I like Sid. I
Hell
Big
yeah.
hockey
Gino.
guys. So
I like Sid. I like Gino.
got a game on
Hell
right
yeah.
now. It's on
Nice.
commercial.
Yeah, I thought I
Yeah.
saw some hockey going on back there.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
Patrick Kane's playing his first game for the Red Wings. So and the Islanders are on
Nice.
after this too.
Oh, I was already on.
Yeah, you guys are big Isles fans. I knew
Big
that.
Islanders. And me and Mike
Yeah.
are. The other guys aren't big hockey guys, but
Abs too. Abs as well.
That's my second team too.
oh really?
Yep. I grew up like I was a big like Patrick Waugh, Joe Sakic, like that whole
Forsberg.
era.
They were
Yeah,
just the best.
Forsberg.
Yeah.
I grew up. My favorite player was Forsberg, so they're my team, and I love the Islanders too. I love them both. I love them both equally. is what I say.
You just backtrack. He gets in a lot of trouble in our Islanders group chat for being a double fan, and he just said they're my team, and then caught himself, and then went, no, I
Second
love the
team.
big
Second
boy."
team.
Yeah, he does this often.
I wouldn't call them I would not call the Avalanche my second team.
No,
You probably have my Broncos shirt on. I'm a Denver guy.
yeah,
Not from Denver. I just gravitated towards Peter Forsberg. But I
Love
love
it.
the Islanders too.
I was a big Patrick Waugh guy. I don't know why. And like back
He's
then,
great.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah, and back
Yeah.
then, I played a lot of NHL on like PS2,
NHL.
like
Yeah,
that.
That's where my love of hockey came from too. Was
Yeah,
from playing the video games first,
Yeah.
and then being like, "Oh, there's actually a sport."
and you just
Sure,
could
yeah,
not, and you just could not score on Patrick Waugh. So I was like, that's
No.
my shit. This is my team. I love it.
and
Granted,
the
we had the
personality
Penguins,
too.
but
Yeah.
He has quite a fiery personality.
Yeah, it's fun.
Fought
Oh,
3
yeah.
goals on the Red Wings.
I
Fought
I
3
love
Red
that
Wings.
famous video of him like making a crazy glove save and he winks to the mask. Like it's like a cartoon. He's awesome.
It's fucking fun too.
Yeah, he's made some goofy like glove saves that landed in front of
And then
him. That he thought he had.
I'll never forget his first game coaching.
He's knocking the stanchion down
It-
between him and Bruce
Boudreaux
Boudreaux.
screaming at each other, and Bruce Boudreaux's coaching the Ducks, and you know that's just not run of the course. You don't see that often, but it happens. And then Patrick Waugh slams the glass and it tilts
It, like,
over.
falls
and
over.
Bruce Boudreaux went. He turned around and walked away.
Yeah,
He was like, "This is fucked. This guy is out of his mind." And it was one of those things where that season was so unreal because he does that the first game of the season. And I remember guys essentially saying halfway through that season, after that season, you go, "You want to run through a wall for that guy because he's
Oh,
doing
I'm
that
sure.
for
Oh,
the
yeah.
first game of the year."
Sure, yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. So two more things before we wrap up because I know you guys got to take off here shortly. So
Yeah, she good.
the first thing that, well, I guess there's two. One is we want to talk about a little bit, if you guys have anything that you want to announce, talk about any new music, any new tours, anything like that. And then the other one is just a fun thing that we like to ask bands, like now that we're getting closer to the end of the year too. And that's because one of our biggest episodes we do every year is sort of an album of the year episode.
Sure.
Where we, look at all the releases from this past year
I
and
keep a
then come up with
spreadsheet
one.
of all
Oh,
my
same.
stuff.
So do we.
As we
We
keep
do
a
the same
Spreadsheet of all
thing.
my stuff. So I'll pull my spreadsheet up and I'll let you know
Yes,
what's
yes.
going on right now.
So I guess let's talk about maybe any new music announcements, anything like that you guys have. I know you dropped a single in 2022, Hyper Wealth, and then you dropped another one this year, Tragic.
Yep.
Is that going to be part of a larger collection of music, or what do we got? Those were just one-offs?
Those are just one-offs, and I want to put them out physically as part of like you'll see Porcupine Tree is an example of this where they'll put a record out and then side A, side B, side C is the record, and then side D is like B-sides or like songs from another, like Fear of Blank Planet comes with side D being nil recurring, that kind of thing. Where it's like we're not going to go out of our way to put a 7-inch out for this thing, but it's one of those things where it's like we sign with a label who goes, all right, you get an allotment for, we can put this on two vinyl. And I go, okay, so let's try and put the singles out. So that's the capacity that it'll come out physically. At some point it will, but it'll be part of a larger release,
Probably,
kind of just like bonus tracks.
But those tracks by
cool.
themselves, I mean, they came out the way they did for a couple of reasons. First one, the being the no fun, paperwork reason was our contract was over with our last label. So we had this moment where we could have immediately went straight to work on a full-length record, or we kind of wanted to just test the waters of putting something out by ourselves and just see what would happen in the meantime. And the songs felt creatively like something that was falling directly in the middle of what we had done and what we are going to do. And we liked them a lot. We believed them a lot, but it felt very much like they serve as a bridge in our brains. When you hear the songs, it just felt like Hyperwealth lives in its own world. It's so aggressive. It certainly could find its way, or it could have found its way on a record. We love the song, but it has just a self-contained ball of energy that felt proper to just put it out by itself. And Tragic was a song that we all kind of immediately, that was actually the first one that we agreed on when it came to like the idea of putting on a couple singles. Was Tragic was the one we signed off on first. We're like, yeah, it's cool. It's right. Complete. It does what the band does pretty quickly. And it just like I said, it felt like I don't want to say the end of an era, but it felt like the closing chapter of what we always felt like we were doing, the best version of what we were doing already. And now it's time to move into something different. And we didn't want to let those songs just disappear because they're awesome. We like them. So
yeah.
It felt like a good way to give ourselves some time to work out sort of the back end stuff, and also just let them see the light of day. Otherwise, if we moved beyond them, maybe they wouldn't have. And so yeah, that was the mentality on those two singles. And then going forward, now we're writing a fuck ton of music, which is what we've been wanting to do for quite a while, but touring just kept coming in, which is a great problem to have. And we never really found the time to sit down as a group and start fleshing out a whole bunch of songs. And I think it probably worked out for the better, because maybe had we had written these the songs that we're now writing a couple of years ago before we got so much extra touring experience, they may not have come out as good as we think they're coming out now, because we learned so much from seeing these super professional bands that we tour with carry themselves, and the way they like their creative processes, and watching them prepare for shows, watching them play shows, and getting inspired. Like, you know, seeing a band like Haken or Between the Buried and Me just rip through the intervals, of course, as well. And I mean, the list could go on forever, but like just seeing the way those bands rip through a 65-minute set with all these emotions and ebbs and flows, and like, you know, slow parts and super big parts and super heavy parts. And we had this moment, I mean, over time, but certainly it came to a head on the Between the Buried and Me tour, where we were like, we gotta like not write music like either one of these bands, but we need to create, like, it just inspired you to create larger moments.
Yeah.
Music, you know, just
good way of putting it.
things that weren't just like, we felt like we were this self-contained ball of energy for 30 minutes, and other bands that we looked up to were creating just creating a moment for 65 minutes. And I was like, okay, I want to create a moment too. I want to make people feel things that are maybe a little bit more complex than what we're doing now. So that, I think, taking that experience home and then applying it to the songs that we had already begun to write, and then certainly inspire us, I think, to maybe leave a few things in the riff bank and start from scratch on a lot of things, in a way. Not that everything was from scratch, but we certainly like felt rekindled to just write a bunch of brand new stuff, as opposed to going like, what have we been working on for a year and a half? You know, like let's start over, almost not start over, but let's like maybe wipe the slate a little bit clean here.
And not only just that, but maybe write a couple songs that aren't based around riffs and more about musical ideas in general.
Yeah.
Like so many songs that we love are like, you know, not all music is riff based, and there's still plenty of room for it. More there's tons, but it makes those riffs stand out so much more when it's not all riffs all the time.
Yeah. So long and short, we're working on a third record that, I mean, every band in the world is going to go on an interview and say, no, it's like it's their best stuff ever, man. Like, but best is always going to be up to interpretation. But as far as we're concerned, it's the most complete music, and it's certainly, you know, we're not talking a complete 180 in the other direction, but it is certainly, it's still our band, like, without question. But it's
still, and there's, you know, even if we go through and like complete 4, 5, 6 of these songs already, there's still, you know, as much as I'm loving them, I understand there's still room to grow on future records.
Yeah, and some of the stuff that we already demoed and love might not even make a record, because we might write something in a month that's better. So we're in this very I'd say productive, creative snowball right now.
And
where
fluid.
Yeah, it's going cool. So it's maybe taking a little longer than we wanted, mostly because of touring, but it's not for a lack of a, you know, we looked at the calendar, the Angel History turned 3 like 2-3 days ago, and I was like, holy smokes. And obviously we lost some of that time to COVID for sure.
I would love it if a record came out before it turned 4, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll have to see what goes on, but that's where we're at right now. Actually, what we will be doing as soon as we hang up with you guys, we're gonna start fleshing out a song that Mike and I
showing Jeremy a song that me and you worked on. Yeah,
and if it,
I mean, we could just keep it rolling, and while you guys
Just
it'd be very boring for you. Mostly me looping the same 30-second session.
You like this? You
like that? I'd be enthralled.
Yeah, well, I'm glad somebody is. I'm bored most of the time.
So I guess what we're saying is, you know, don't expect a full 180, and it's, you know, it's not a complete different direction, but there's some new inspiration there, maybe from what you just experienced overseas, and
it's making the house bigger.
Yeah,
it's not knocking the house down, but we are putting a second story on the house.
Definitely. I like that description.
Yeah,
very cool. Any new tours or anything like that coming up?
No, we're actually in full on writing mode.
Yeah.
Awesome. No, that's cool.
Oh, nice.
That's awesome.
We found that we had no choice but to take the time to write, because every time we went, we'll between that tour and that tour we'll write, And then for some reason, it was hard to get the momentum moving when there's always something to rehearse for and there's always something to prepare for financially and prepare for production wise and what have you. So it is kind of nice, even though it's kind of driving us all a little stir crazy because we're not used to it. It is nice to just be like, okay, the only thing this band has to focus on right now is writing songs.
Mhm.
So
No,
I think
that's cool.
that's probably why the stuff's coming out cool and it's not being rushed. But we are going stir crazy. So the second a cool offer comes across our table, we'll take it.
Nice, nice. When can we expect to hear a piece of that at all? Is there any?
Your guess is probably better than mine.
Yeah,
shit. All right.
multiple.
So next week. No,
multiple
I'm just kidding.
factors.
That doesn't mean it's going to be a long time per se. It
Yeah,
just means
for
that
sure.
I literally don't know.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that's perfectly fine.
I
And
mean,
now
it's materializing quicker than it did even 2 months ago. So it seems like the snowball's getting bigger and it's rolling downhill.
Nice.
So it's getting faster. So hopefully sooner than later. But
Cool.
Very
That's
cool.
exciting.
and now putting you on the spot. Album of the year so far. What do you got?
Spreadsheet up.
he's got a crazy spreadsheet, man.
We do
I've
the
been-
same
I've been
thing.
very-
I've got one for. I've got
You
one
go
for,
first because
I've got one for movies and I've got one for
he's
music.
probably
gonna
got
say, and
30 minutes on this.
And it doesn't have to be limited to like heavy music either, because I know there's.
Oh, I know.
Okay, cool. Just
it couldn't be.
because I was gonna say, because sometimes that it's interpreted that way. Oh, you're a heavy music podcast. It has to be heavy, but we're pretty much all over the place.
We're a heavy
went
band that takes very, 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 very personal extended breaks from heavy music.
sometimes you have to,
Yeah.
hit the refresh
Uh,
button.
I've got.
The thing I had on my Apple Music was Creed. Before I wasn't looking like bored on my phone when we were talking about Creed. I was actually pulling up their album artwork because I think that band they're a cool band, but man, they have some of the funniest album artwork.
Funniest artwork,
Like and like
yes.
through their whole career. Like it's not even like an era. Every Creed album has hilarious album artwork. Like, unbelievably funny album artwork. So that's why I was pulling up and then we got distracted. But
No, you're good.
I'm looking here. What do we got?
Okay, so and I just want to make sure because I haven't updated the spreadsheet in a second. I've on top of that, I've got a playlist on Spotify where I'm just like, all right, I'm adding, as I go through the like I limit it to 10 and then I re-listen through everything and stuff gets moved.
I do the exact same
That's
thing.
me
It's
too.
hilarious.
Yep. It's tough because I'm gonna leave stuff out that I like. What I'm
Give
gonna
it a top 3 then.
There's no gun to your head here. It's it can change. We can
No,
we
but
can
there is one
preface
to your
it.
leg right now, so watch out.
okay.
Just a leg shot. You'll be fine.
All right, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna give you my 10 with the I'm gonna give you my 10 as they are right now, and I'll go through them quick. I won't even say anything about any.
That's fine.
Front runner for one is what I'll say. The one I'll elaborate on is the front runner for one, which is that new Tomb Mold record, The Enduring Spirit. Is that on your radar?
Ooh, no, I haven't checked that one out yet. I need to listen.
Fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's honestly like it's cool progressive death metal. It's really really cool.
Think less Periphery. Well, that's not death metal, but like think less Periphery and more like Obscura, Death, Cynic,
sweet.
like
Ooh,
that
cool, yeah.
90s vibe, but like
But
it's
raw in a
fucking
weird.
awesome.
But yeah, they're so that's my front runner is new Tomb Mold record. Then
Cool.
I've got in no specific order right now. New Paramore record. I think they're an unbelievable band. New Haken record, which to be completely honest, that band was not someone that I really dove into until we toured with them, and then they just I think it's great. Band that just announced that they broke up a day or two ago, Screaming Females. Their new record is really cool. Got to see them this year. They're great. A record that really grew on me and might challenge for one, Caroline Polachek. She's like I don't want to say experimental, but like kind of like experimental-ish pop music. Suzanne Sundfor. I think she's Scandinavian, but this is a record that I pop on a good bit. It's called Bloomy. No,
Called what now?
Blomy. Blomi.
It's that kind of podcast.
It's really cool. It's really cool.
Gonna have to change
folky
our
poppy.
category on podcast now.
Steven Wilson, Harmony Codex. That's another one that should be top 3, no doubt. I think that's probably his best since Hand Cannot Erase. New No Name record, Sundial, which is my only really big hip hop release that I love this year. I like that Danny Brown. What's the name of that Danny Brown record? Yeah, I like that new Danny Brown record. But like admittedly, don't listen to hip hop. One of my least listened to genres right now, but I still dive in. a band called Ulthar. They're another death metal band. They put out a double record this year. I have it on the list, and it's one of those things where I like the 2 releases before this a little bit more. That'll probably get bumped. And then Reverend Kristen Michael Hayter, which is the Lingua Ignata's new identity, I guess you could say. The record Saved. It's really, really cool. It's like gospel. It's gospel chanty shit. It's insane. The record she put out, the last record that she put out under Lingua Ignata, and this one are legitimately insane. And there's like tons more that are on my radar on the spreadsheet, and for different categories. I have Song of the Year, Best Opening Track, Closing Track, tons of stuff like that I can't even get.
He does awards by himself.
Not by myself, with some buddies.
Oh, okay.
I have I also started doing a podcast. I just had Dan from Between the Buried Me on, actually.
Oh, sweet.
Oh, nice.
About essentially about movies, talking to musicians about what their favorite movies are. And I am doing an award show for music and movies where it's my own Oscars, my own Grammys, and that's why I keep the spreadsheet. And
what's the name of the podcast, just for our listeners?
It's called The Juice, but I need to figure out what's going on with this, the search functionality of this name. If you want to find the podcast, honestly, just search The Juice Dan Briggs, because that's the latest episode. Although a new episode's coming out tonight with James from Rollo on The Talented Mr. Ripley.
Very cool.
Ooh, cool.
And Dan's movie was Mulholland Drive, for what it's worth.
Yeah.
Very cool.
For me,
Cool.
I definitely I don't have a spreadsheet.
Okay, yeah, you go ahead.
And to be honest, I didn't listen to as much music this year as I wanted to. Probably a symptom of doing so much of our own stuff. I do the engineering, and Jeremy and I do the mixing for all of our demos. So my ears are very fried and cooked, just like, doing that shit all the time. But for me, I loved the new Health record. It's called Rat Wars. I don't know if anyone in here listens to Health.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Yes, it's called Rat Wars.
I've got,
very good.
On top of all this, I got a playlist where it's just new music to check out this year that is like 40 hours long. So I'm adding to that now.
There you go. Yeah, very cool. I mean, that band's first for me was the Black Queen, was the first like foray I had into like sort of dreamscapey stuff, and then Mike and Jeremy got me into Health. It's more industrial, electronic kind of thing. Really cool. So that record was awesome. Like Mike, the Paramore record, This Is Why, is excellent. It's perfect pop music. It's not as good as After Laughter for me, but I do love it still.
My wife would be happy to hear that. She's a big Paramore fan. So.
Honestly, both of our wives will be real into this podcast, because there's a lot of Taylor Swift talk and a lot of Paramore talk. So they're gonna be
Paramore's and if there's like another branch off from that, Boy Genius record was awesome.
Love
and that's
that
sort of
record.
tangentially related, to
huge
Paramore,
Phoebe.
I know,
Yeah, I'm a huge
Phoebe Bridgers is like
fan.
my favorite of the trio for sure. But
love
the
her.
record's awesome.
Paramore, for my money, is the best band playing live music right now. Like, I think that they are unstoppable live. I just saw them this year.
Wasn't that tour awesome?
What was that?
Wasn't that tour awesome? Like,
you went to, yes,
yeah,
just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Seriously, like I could believe how locked in they were. You watch a band play, and it's just like they are locked in right now.
Yeah, I got into Paramore because of a show. Mike and Jeremy and Matt, our drummer, used to all work for the company Supro, the amplifier company, and their guitar player used the amps, and they were, sort of invited out to the show, like, hey, the company gets a few tickets because Jeremy worked in arts relations and Mike built the amps and stuff. And somebody dropped out last minute, and I was like a total casual Paramore listener in the sense that, I grew up and they were huge. And Mike was like, dude, we got like one extra. Do you want to go see Paramore? And I was like, I guess I know like 4 Paramore songs, but like I'm literally doing nothing. I'll go. And I walked out like, holy smokes, man, that shit was so good. And then I dove into the album that was relevant at the time, After Laughter, and I was like, this is like not what I remembered Paramore being, because it wasn't. It was a very different song, very different album. And I was like, holy shit, this is like excellent, like, I don't know, like synthwave pop or something from the 80s, and it's like not what it was. And I like a lot of the old Paramore stuff too, but it was fucking awesome. So yeah, just died in the wool after that. Mike said Tomb Mold beat me to it. Awesome death metal record. I haven't heard a lot of like just straight up old sounding death metal anymore. That's like not all that polished. Jeremy was big on the new Horrendous record too. Is that what that's a band, right? Horrendous.
Yeah, horrendous.
Yeah, I listened to the album once and it was very cool too, like a similar sort of thing. There's something else on here that I forgot, so I guess we're just gonna have to live with that.
And I'll say because this happens every year, regardless of if it came out this year or not. There's always new artists that you get into.
Yeah,
The year that I got heavy into Boz Scaggs and Steely Dan, and that's because of
Nice.
Jeremy.
yeah.
So we just had
On
that
that note,
experience. Oh, go ahead.
At the end of last year, a record came out called Present Tense by a band called Yumi Zuma, and it's 2022. But like Mike said, I got so into it this year because of a recommendation from a friend. That was a band called Yumi Zuma, and I was like, that was like the soundtrack to the BT band tour for me because it's like really, really chill sort of shit. And I got obviously burnt out on hearing heavy music every single day, and we'd be in the van, and I work from the road when I'm on tour. And I would just be like on my laptop and like super tired. And I would put that record on in my AirPods and just like super zone out while our driver was driving. I'm like looking at like cool mountains in Europe. And like I just like sort of associate the tour with that album. So it's not 2023, but it was a mid to late 22, I think. And special shout out for the metal world, not an album, but that New Job for a Cowboy single was one of the best
That was
death
sweet.
metal songs I've heard in a long time. It was really
That was-
cool to see that band.
I was gonna say that's how we felt too. We loved seeing them back, and it was
Very cool.
refreshing to hear that quality come out of them. First
Yeah.
hurrah back. One
Right,
band,
not just like a mailed in. But go ahead.
one band that sort of we just did an interview with Jim from Caligula's Horse.
Oh, cool.
They're a cool band.
Oh, they're awesome. And he actually, because you just said like, oh yeah, somebody just it's music we discovered this year. And I think it might be a band that you guys might like if you've not heard of them before. Have you ever heard of Exploring Birdsong?
No.
It's
Writing it
like
They're really
you
cool.
definitely should. It's like prog rock, pop rock. It's all piano and synth based. Like there's no
Awesome.
guitars at all. But it sounds so massive. Like it's
Yeah.
very interesting. Yeah, definitely check them out. And yeah, anyone else listening, if you didn't check them out from the Jim Caligula's Horse episode, definitely check them out because I haven't stopped listening to them since that episode.
Yeah.
But
Cool.
yeah, and is
always happy to add.
oh yeah, definitely check them out. I think you're gonna like them. Is
I've
there
got some homework
anything?
too.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you guys would like to pass on to our audience before we wrap up here?
Just for anyone who considers 3 years a long wait in today's release world, thanks for sticking with us. And it's felt like an eternity for us, but we're not stopping. So thanks for sticking with us.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, I mean, I'm very excited to put this new record out. I feel like we're gonna take one, if not multiple steps up, just as a band, just the way that I feel about this music, and I'm excited to see you guys when we're back in Pittsburgh, and anyone else who listens whenever we come through wherever wherever they listen through, I guess.
We'll see you back at Jurgles.
You'll
Yeah,
see
okay.
us back at Jurgles.
We will be
And
Jurgles round 2.
before we hop off, I hate the idea of a one-way recommendation. What's for the two of you? What's your favorite record that came out this year? Just so that way it's on my if it's not on my radar, I can put it on it.
I'm a big fan of that new Tesseract record.
That's another great one. I just saw them. Intervals was just on tour with them. We were just hanging out.
Yeah,
That's okay.
I like the Zenith Passage record.
Yeah,
Oh, it's really good.
Yep, that record rocks.
Matt, you can go ahead. I don't want to steal the.
I was gonna say,
I know you have a whole you do awards and stuff, so I don't want to step on your toes. Don't give it all away.
These aren't final. These aren't final.
Yeah, these are fun. The Sleep Token record is up there with the cool stuff that they did with their newest album.
Sweet.
I think also the new Invent Animate more in like the metalcore
Is that
scene.
Brody's? Yeah, Brody's in that band now.
Okay.
We toured with their drummer when he still plays in Seder, but
yeah, he's the drummer for Seder. Seder's awesome. Shout out Seder.
Yeah.
They were really cool guys. We talked to them too after that Jurgle show.
Yeah, good guys. Good guys.
Yeah, I like Brody a lot. I'll listen to the Invent Animate. All right.
Currents dropped a record too. That's pretty good. It's kind of in that same vein.
Nice.
They kind of feel like sister bands almost. Like,
they do. And they always release around the same time too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. I'll give them both a spin.
Awesome.
Cool.
All right.
Let us know what you think.
Yeah, we
yeah.
appreciate you guys. I'm sure we'll keep in touch. I definitely want to hear
Yeah,
your
sure.
final. I'm gonna check your podcast out too, and I want to hear
Oh,
your
sick.
final list and all that stuff.
I want to
So,
see
Yeah.
the toothpaste video.
oh, I want to see
Oh,
that
Send the
too. Yeah,
toothpaste.
yeah,
I'll
yeah.
send it. Yeah, as we're going off, I'll send it to you. So you guys do your
I love
close.
it.
I'll send it over.
Love it. But anyways, thank you guys. We appreciate you. Everybody listening, check out Cryptodira. We'll be linking all their stuff as we release the episode and all that. So show them some love and like and subscribe to our Instagram, our podcast. Obviously, definitely give these guys a follow as well. And until next time, we'll catch you later. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks a million,
Take
guys.
care, guys. Thank you.